Okay, so let's say you've done your research, you've figured out what's going to make your store unique. Now the next step is deciding what you're going to sell. I mean, there's tons of choices. There's Gundam models, card games, board games, anime stuff. My store carried disc golf supplies. I mean, there's a ton of things you can do. But the question just becomes, how do you decide what things those are going to be? Now, while this may seem easy, it's a very difficult decision, honestly, because it kind of shapes really what your store is going to be known for. And when you look at the stats and see how quickly a lot of stores go under, this is a decision that you're really going to have to put time into. Otherwise, you're going to spend so much of your budget just filling out your inventory that you're not going to have many chances to recover. I think that's one of the things many beginning business owners take for granted of, well, I'll just carry these few things and then I'll figure it out as I go along. But there's really two issues there. The first is you miss a lot of potential early sales. When people are coming in and they're hyped because there's a new place and you're running special events and you're doing grand openings, you kind of get your chance to make an impression. And if they come in and you don't have what they want, well, they're probably not coming back. The other part of that is, though, if you have a bunch of stuff that nobody wants, well, they're probably not coming back. So you really have to put some time in to figure that out. It's not all that easy. And it's not just understanding what to carry, but it's also how much of everything you want to carry. Like, think about it this way. There's a thing called turn rates. Effectively, that's saying how often you need to turn your inventory to meet whatever the goals are of your P&L statement. Assuming you've done your profit and loss statement already because you've followed step one and done the education part of all of this. That said, as an example, let's say your plan says you need to do 300,000 in sales to hit whatever your appropriate profit margin and end goals are for the year. But you only have $100,000 in inventory. That means effectively everything you have needs to turn 3 times. Now, obviously not everything will sell 3 times. You'll have some stuff that sells 6, some that sells 1. But your average per item needs to be 3. That way your 100,000 will turn into 300,000 and you can meet your goals. That should at least explain it clear enough for most people. Okay, so now you know how much you need to actually have in order to meet your goals. So some of the work's done now. You figure out whatever that number is, then you at least can start figuring out, how much I need to have of each in particular item. Now the next question is just what do those items need to be? Or how do you even figure out what you want those items to be? What I would say is you have to just get out into the trenches. I would go to your local game conventions and talk to the vendors there and really spend time talking to the attendees and try to figure out how many are local. Because it doesn't really matter if people are coming in to the event but they live 3 hours away. That's not going to be your everyday customer. Like, sure, they may stop in during a big event weekend or when you're doing a special tournament or something, but they're not going to be the ones that get you through the weekly grind. So try to find the people that generally are within 30 minutes to an hour of your store or wherever your future location will be. That'll help you decide who your customers are and what they're asking for. Then try to actually speak to people about their buying habits, not just what they're a fan of. Like, somebody can easily tell you, well, I'm a fan of Magic the Gathering, or I love board games, or I play Warhammer, or whatever. But if they're just never buying anything and they're just playing with their old stuff, well, you're strictly going to be a hangout for them, and that person's just going to be the type that comes and hangs out and helps build up an audience, but they're not actually going to help you make sales. Now, if you can figure out where they're buying and see, okay, well, maybe can you be competitive with those sources? Or do they have a friend network that does a bunch of purchasing? And okay, maybe you should consider carrying those items. Also, do you have any creators or companies that are nearby? That'll affect what you could carry as well. You'll tend to get more promotional items, you'll get more visits from them, possibly some live demos, and that also can boost sales on certain categories as well. I would also spend time going to the local colleges. Honestly, one of the best resources is even just finding meetup groups and other Facebook groups online, and then just learn what people are into and what people are buying. One of the biggest mistakes I think a lot of game store owners make, and I think this could probably apply to any type of industry, is that the business owners decide that they like a thing, and then that's what they're going to carry, or they even double or triple down on it, and then they're ignoring another thing that customers say they want because they don't think it's as good. But the reality is, if that's what the customer wants to buy and they keep asking for it, just sell it. Like in my personal example, there are some games I've just played to death, and I don't really care if I play them again. I found other things I enjoy much more. But if a customer is coming in and they're asking for one of those older games, then as long as I can get it, I'm going to keep it on the shelf, probably even 3 or 4 deep, so I don't miss a sale every week. That's kind of the logic you got to go with. Yes, you want to sell things that you like, because you will be more enthusiastic about them, you will be able to push them harder, and people seeing your excitement will obviously sell some of them. No doubt about it. But at the same time, there's going to be some stuff you don't necessarily enjoy or care about, or a certain style of product, or whether you're selling clothes or jewelry or whatever, there's going to be something that you don't like, a particular style or version of that thing, but your customers are going to love it. And you need to have it for those people, because they're the ones that are going to help you pay your bills. I guess no matter how you look at it, what I'm saying here is research is key. You're going to have to spend probably a few months really figuring out what works, what doesn't. I mean, I would go as far as to visit every other store within a reasonable drive of the location you plan to be. And by reasonable, I mean if it's a 3-hour radius, fine. Then you find every store within 3 hours and go visit them. And then just have that understanding of what it is they're doing good or bad, or what things are moving for them or not, and then get a general picture of what's going on in your region. Yes, their customers may not be your customers. Yes, some of their trends will be different than what goes on in your store. But if you give yourself a large enough sample size, your information is going to stand to be stronger. Now, yes, there was a point where I said you don't necessarily get a chance to make those adjustments when you open. That's only partially true. Like, you do need to leave yourself a little bit of room in your budget to figure out what to purchase when you get those early customers that maybe you do get 6, 7, 10, 20 customers over those first 2 weeks that are saying, hey, we really are looking for a place to buy product X. Well, you need to find a way to get your hands on product X. Well, yeah, you need some money there. I think the term we've kind of derived, at least in the game industry, is being open to buy, right? You have something in your budget that says this money is allocated for me to make key expenses whenever these items come up that may be rare or surprising or something that I just didn't see. And that's your flexibility. And you want to always have something there in your budget to make sure that you can meet those needs as they come up. Otherwise, you're really going to fall behind trends and whatnot. And you don't want to chase trends, because honestly, at that point, by the time stuff's gotten restocked, or you found a new source, or it's been shipped to you, or whatever, you've probably missed the boat. If you don't get on in the first couple of weeks, a lot of times you're just too late. I'm sure there's enough people who can remember Pogs, or maybe even more recently, fidget spinners. If you were on trend, you probably made a few extra $1,000 that year. Probably a few $10,000. But if you were behind the trend, you're probably still stuck with some fidget spinners in a storage room somewhere. Truly, in the end, like many things involving business, there's some math, there's some strategy, but there's some things like product selection that are a little bit more art than science. You're not going to be able to go to your compatriots and just say, hey, what do you carry in your store? What do you put over here? When do you run your events? When does this thing happen? Like, some things will translate, some things won't. And I would say more things won't than will. As an example, when I had my business, there was a store that was about 20 minutes south of me, and we carried similar products. However, we had completely different things that sold well for us. Some of it was because of our staff and knowledge, some was because of personal expertise, some were just because of the customers that were coming in, local market trends. Even though we were that close and we even shared a few customers, in the end, there were just things they could move well that we couldn't, and vice versa. Now, we built up that relationship, so we were able to transfer some of our inventory where necessary and help us both out. But that's just used as an example to say, even somebody that's basically in your backyard is going to move stuff completely differently. So you have to do your own research, pay attention to your numbers early on, and really try to balance that inventory and those numbers for what's actually moving. To recap though, it definitely just takes time, and you're going to have to do a lot of research, and you may not even get it right on the money, but you want to get as close as you can because it's a huge portion of your initial spend. It's probably going to be something around rent, your build out, and then probably inventory are going to likely be the things you spend the most on opening your business. And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying this to scare you or to push you away. It's just keeping that in mind that it is an important decision. So reach out to local groups, whether those be schools, youth groups, whatever, and just see if that's a place you can generate customers and then poll them for what they're looking for. Maybe for alternate forms of entertainment, or even find local clubs for things locally, whether that be darts, chess, disc golf, whatever, that there's not a local spot to buy those items. Maybe you become one of the providers for those items. And again, join local Facebook groups, meetup groups, whatever, to meet the locals, find out what it is they're looking for, and really dive deep. Don't just take surface level answers, really push to find out what they're buying, where they're buying it, how much they're buying, and try to figure out, is this a thing I really want to carry? Somebody can tell you nicely that they're big fans of a product, but then they only really spend like $50 to $100 on it all year. Is that something you should carry? Maybe not. But if you have 20 people that all spend that much, then sure, consider it. You may also have just 3 or 4 whales that are interested in a particular product. Should you carry it? Maybe, in small quantities. But that's also a decision you can make. You're not going to bring in $5,000 of it. You might bring in $500 worth. And then as they prove they're buying from you, maybe you move forward, bringing in more. So there's a lot of ways to approach it. But just some tips to think about as you open those doors and figure out what you're going to carry. As usual, if you like this stuff, let me know. Hit the like and subscribe button down below. And truthfully, if you want something else or you want to hear about other topics, just lay a comment and let me know. Till next time.